These are the scariest videos of American Dad. The episode, The Mural of the Story, opens with a little daddy and daughter car quarrel about eating at O'Shanahan. Apparently, they cut Stan off in the middle of his very important all-you-can-eat wings night.
It was for your own safety. You vomited twice and were having severe heart palpitations.
How dare they trample on a man's dream, even if he vomited twice? While Steve was cheering up Stan with a backseat shuffle dance, Stan saw a mural and hit the brakes. Without wasting time, Stan showed what he saw to the CIA and...
This! Our town's most cherished landmark. Sullied. Violated.
Francine drops off Steve at someplace I'd like to call a clown fest, and Steve is not really that much of a clown. Look at those muscles on Roger.
Oh, Dee, what?
When a clown is not clowning, it's not just funny. Later, Stan tries to clean up the mural, and well, that came out better than my kindergarten doodles. Everyone blames Haley for it and shames her. Because of that, Stan decided to give her plastic surgery with tools used to build houses. Now, how is that supposed to work? I can't show you this, but picture letting a baby give you plastic surgery at the end. It turned out like...
You made me a monster!
Haley tries to run away, but gets hit by an O'Shanahan's truck. Damn you, O'Shanahan!
No! God, please, no!
At the hospital, the doctor says Haley is in a super coma. However, Klaus discovers that the doctor is actually Haley in disguise, with a new look, thanks to a CIA doctor. Using Jeff as a stand-in at the hospital, Haley vows revenge on Stan for disfiguring her. She finds out that Stan is redoing the mural and plans to blow it up with Klaus's help. However, when Stan reveals the mural, it's a public confession of how he ruined the original and let Haley take the blame.
Ever since, my only hope has been that this monumental confession might somehow reach through to her and bring her back to me.
That's not what we are here for, man. Touched, she forgives him, and they bond. But instead of letting the mural stand, they blow it up together, taking out the auto parts store it was painted on. There's always a consequence attached to every lie, and this episode, Poltergasm, does that saying great justice. Stan and Francine start their morning off after doing what makes the bed do that squeaking sound. Stan and Francine both agree that they both touched down at Satisfactionville. Just then, the light flickered off, and Francine whipped out a candelabra. She went downstairs and spectating, that's all.
Ah! Mom! What are you doing?
Oh, my, Haley!
They move out of the living room because it's just straight out weird to have your mom stare down at you like a ghost while you acquaint puzzle pieces with your lover. Just then, a portrait falls. She picks it up and it burns away immediately. She hands it back. Steve and Roger were in the ceiling playing games when they noticed a flying spooky board playing by itself. Klaus came in and said he was off to Atlantic City to have the time of his life, but when he got there, it was nothing but a nightmare, as his back cracked like a pencil and he was locked in his room all day listening to one commercial. I wonder how he made it out of there alive. Steve and Roger decide to go full Ghostbusters and find a spirit literally humping the washing machine.
It looks like Mom!
My heart skipped 2 beats just now. They quickly run down and share the news from their latest discovery with Stan, who almost pissed his pants. The spirit tossed him around like a piece of rag. In came Ruby Zeldastian, another personality up Roger's sleeve. Ruby discerned that the ghost is not the spirit of a dead person, but just Francine's unsatisfied spirit troubling the house, because apparently no one shall find release until the ghost does. Did I also forget to mention that the spirit ate Mauricio?
You did it! I'm free!
Oh, sorry, my bad. Stan had to go through a whole montage of training on how to satisfy a woman. I took notes too, but let's not make it about me. At the end of all the training, the CIA agent still failed to get his target to satisfaction avenue. The spirit went on a rampage and...
What do you want from me?
After shoving down about 20 pills of Viagra down Stan's throat this time, he manages to exorcise the unsatisfied spirit. And that's why you should not lie about climaxing. You could create a washing machine, house-destroying ghost. I thought Christmas couldn't get any crazier, but in the episode For Whom the Sleigh Bells Toll, things went from festive to downright apocalyptic. It is Christmas season, and Stan cannot just wrap his head around the fact that everyone in his household still believes in Santa. His wife came in and started putting presents in socks. Stan has the elaborate bonding with Steve over target shots, no matter how many times Francine told him not to get a gun.
Merry Wednesday, son!
Jeff came in to join in on the father-son bonding time, but Stan just wished that he gets vaporized as he closed his eyes.
When I open my eyes, you better be gone, okay? I don't want to see a trace of you.
I guess the gods don't answer all kinds of prayers. Roger went to a booze shop because apparently nothing takes him to Cloud 9. The bartender told a little tale of a moonshiner who lives atop a mountain with 4 arms 9 feet tall, and he makes the most mind-blowing and eye-twisting booze. The bartender hands him a map, and some guy who kept interrupting the story just had to receive a sweet
It is my gift to you, but just know that
I'm all set with the beer, but I've got a random question. Do you sell watch batteries?
just to get him to shut the... Steve was out on target practice and almost blinded himself. They both went out to get eye goggles, and when they were about to sit in the car, Stan sighted a snowman and told Steve to shoot at it. Steve shot at it all right and found out that he had just sent Santa Claus back to the realm of the gods. Just in case the thought just slipped in, and you were wondering about the thing I said about not feeling Christmas. That's not why. They buried the body and later found it was the true Santa Claus. They went back and couldn't find the body, but they got a message that Santa Claus was coming for them. Roger appeared and took them to the mountain, where he found a man who made the best booze. Jeff showed up not long after, and apparently he gave out their location to the one guy who wanted to end them all. The Jingles and the Master of the Elves are here, and they're here en masse. Everyone prepares for battle and...
Son?
Is it weird to have a boner?
It'd be weird if you didn't.
The fight dragged on, but if you wonder what Santa was doing all Christmas Eve, that's it right there. Santa Claus called back his troops because the sun came up. Fending off the warriors of Christmas has now become the annual Christmas activity. It's one thing to have a perfect haunted Halloween house. It's a whole different thing to have the Suicide Squad run around your house, trying to separate heads from bodies. In the episode, Best Little Horror House in Langley Falls, Steve was having the most wonderful dream playing against one of his crushes. But why does he sound like a little girl moaning? Stan scares him right out of his dream, and he jumps out of a window, dislocating his shoulder. Stan and Francine talk about how they've had the best haunted Halloween house over the years. But here is Buckle, and with that haunted house, he's not just gonna steal your girl, he's gonna steal her soul too. They head over there, and in 0.5 seconds, Buckle had them screaming like babies.
Kill you!
Not too shabby, huh?
He invited them over to check out his haunted house, and this was a slap right at Stan's face. He's not about to let Buckle win the haunted house of the year. Steve and his friend go to pick up their Japanese friend who has totally rejected Halloween with that samurai costume because it's just too cliche. But that's not the fun part. Steve immediately falls in love with Akiko, and immediately he sets his eyes on her. Stan was still up and about, trying to make the house look scarier than Buckless's. But no matter how he tried, it's still just looking like a kid's play party. That must have bruised his ego. Stan heeds to Roger's advice and brings in the scare tools I like to call the Suicide Squad. It's one thing to hire actors, it's a whole different thing to bring convicted people in fish. Thanks to the Halloween display. So many things could go wrong. Steve didn't return Akiko back on time, and now he's got a bounty on his head. Akiko's brother chased them around, and they found themselves in a cave at Langley Falls. Just when things were about to get hot, Akiko's brother busted into the cave and chased them all the way back to town. After a few words of truth, they made up. But... And here's the fun part. Roger let out the Suicide Squad from their fish tank, and now they're loose and running around the house with spears and chainsaw machines. Just when the Suicide Squad was about to erase half of the Smith family, Akiko brother showed up and sliced them up like it was just swinging practice. Obtaining too much power gets out of hand. But I want that power to get into my hands the same way it did in the episode The Witches of Langley. Steve and his friends were peacefully walking to their lunch table at school and running us through the hierarchy of the lunch tables, only to realize that they've been kicked off their own table by some left-handed guy. Just because they don't know the name of their own group. They ran into the football team, and in a bid to escape, Steve ran into a room where he met yet another personality of Roger, who's selling a buckload of things you wouldn't buy even if you needed. Roger told Steve that he could purchase anything he wanted, but couldn't go close to a book laying on a stand right there like a trophy.
Yeah, boy.
Immediately, Roger left the room, and Steve pulled closer to the book and took it with him. It was a spell book. Steve told his friends, and though they don't believe in magic, they still cast a spell called,
And I've already picked out our first spell. To return that which has been lost.
The next morning, it felt like the spell didn't work, but all the left-handed guys were now right-handed. They got their table back and got themselves a name, the Witches, and thus began their reign of witchery. With the birth of witches, a witch hunter was born, and it was none other than the Principal Lewis. I won't lie. They looked cool in those bad boys' outfits, and I thought witches only wore capes like.
What do you think, Patrick? Do I look tough?
I wouldn't mess with you.
They agreed not to use blood magic, but after one of the footballers disrespected him, Steve used blood magic to make him his slave. This all started with wanting a place to eat, but with great power comes the great urge to run the town the way you want. Steve turned the footballer into a zombie, and Lewis swooped in and ended the zombie. The boys now have to find Steve before the witch hunter puts an arrow through him, the same way he did the zombie. The boys ran to a concert, and as they discerned, he's trying to take over the town, but they're not about to let that happen.
You may have blood magic, but I'll take our friendship over that any day.
I know wherever Dominic Toretto is, he's proud because nothing comes over family. As you can see, Steve summoned a spirit wolf, while the boys are engulfed in a spirit bomb that looks like Goku from Dragon Ball. The witch hunter shot an arrow, Steve deflected it, and it pierced one of the guys. With that, the reign of the Dark Witch came to an end, and with a spell, everything went back to normal. And just in case you're wondering about their lunch table, they all got beat up and are now the purple-eyed boys. You already know how horrifying it is to watch a video on childbirth. Well, in the next terrifying episode, Roger's Baby, it gets a lot worse because we are about to witness an alien child. This episode begins with Haley and her husband doing a pregnancy test in the bathroom, and it turned out negative. Klaus came in not long after and told them he needs the space to take a deuce that won't fit in his bowl.
What?
At the living room, Francine consoles them and tells them that in a matter of time, the baby is going to stick right in. That's when bored Roger came in and casually dropped the bomb that Jeff is not actually human. And they also went to Disneyland without Klaus. There's only one way to make Jeff human again, and it's by feeding his brain to an alien on heat that'll give birth to him as a human again. Roger casually mentions that he's in heat and walks away. Elsewhere, Steve and Snot were having a casual school morning until Morning Mimosa's 3 Happy Days host came and picked Snot. We found out that Steve put him up for this because he's poor, and this really hurt Snot. 3 days in a row, Snot was to be yanked away into some fun activity. But the third day, he spent it running away from the host with his friend Steve. Back at home, Jeff and Haley convinced Roger to birth Jeff as a human. He agreed after much convincing and without further ado, he sucked out Jeff's brain like he was sipping on a Maltina Sit-It. Later on, they went to the doctor to check on a baby, and they sonogrammed the image of a grown man. Cue the unending mood swings of a pregnant woman. Roger puked all over Haley.
I think I missed a spot.
They threw a baby shower, and it landed in Roger, wanting to keep the baby and naming him Tristan. They found him at the door of a hotel where pregnant women always run to, and he goes into labor. The sign of labor? Eyes squirting blood. The child is born like a tiny green sponge, and Roger says he just needs a little water, and he'll pop up like this. Apparently, all you need is a human brain to fertilize an alien. Our next scary episode, The 200, starts gloomy, and with no room for anything shiny, the intro song was shut down. We see Stan walking back into Langley that now looks like an aftermath of war. He carefully sneaks through the destroyed city, and he gets to his very destroyed home. He walked around until he came across Lewis, and they started a campfire. They get talking, and Lewis asks if he's part of the people doing that thing where people eat other people, and Stan says no.
You, done any of that?
Nope.
Let's not talk about the filing of his teeth. Let's talk about the fact that Stan had tattoos. He explains that the eagle on his chest was from when he and his daughter went fishing, and she tried to bond with him, but he intimately shut her out. Classic daddy issues, but I can't believe they took fish fishing. Not the fish that she threw away. But the Eagles caught that lead to the tattoo. I meant Klaus in his bottle. Stan went to get more wood for the fire, but Louis already made plans for dinner as he tried to chop Stan into tiny bits, but Stan fought him off. He then runs into Greg, and Greg loses a leg to Louis, and now Stan has to carry him about. Greg asked about the lotus tattoo on Stan's shoulder, and he explained that he could have easily carried his son Steve when they had a father and son race, but he was busy lambasting him with words like,
Oh, God, look at him flat on the ground like a pressed hot sandwich.
Just when Stan was about to face a mob of people, someone rushed by screaming the 200 are coming. Turns out it's just Roger. He's been going round, and
I just walk around, do a creepy, wah, the 200 are coming.
they hop on a burning train, and no matter how many times Roger tried to ditch Greg, but his plans always fail. Stan tells them a story about the trash can on his wrist, and it's about how his wife has to take out that trash in his place. They get attacked on the train, and Greg gets left out again, but he makes it out anyway. They arrive at their destination, but they're told that everyone is already dead. Louis comes out of nowhere and effortlessly chops off Greg's second leg and locks them up in a cage. He dragged them up a hill, but along the way, they were intercepted by Stan's family, who saved him from the human-eating hands of Louis and falling off a cliff. That's when they came, the 200. Apparently, a while ago, Roger went to a clinic to run a test, but instead 200 clones were created, which created a huge explosion that turned the Earth into the aftermath that it is now. This episode, Blood Crieth Unto Heaven, gives you a reason to explain things to your child. The episode opens with Stan's family planning a surprise birthday party for him, despite his mother's warnings against it. When Francine sends Roger, disguised as the maid Edna, to check on the air conditioning, Haley prompts her to investigate other matters. Stan arrives and, troubled by memories of his father leaving, cancels the party, revealing he has never celebrated his birthday since that abandonment. Upset, he drives away while eating crabs. Meanwhile, Bullock follows Edna into the basement and seduces her. A police officer later brings Stan back home, where he discovers that Francine has invited his father. Francine attempts to foster a connection between Stan and his father, but both refuse to communicate. While Bullock and Edna cuddle, they hear a baby crying, leading Edna to disclose a hidden infant. Bullock admits he cannot handle babies due to a past relationship. Just as he starts to leave, Edna reveals the baby is actually Haley's, which catches Bullock off guard. Meanwhile, Stan, feeling isolated, interrupts Jack and Steve's private pool party in anger.
Yuck, 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 what a fun party! Yuck, 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 yuck! Oh, is this for me? Nom, 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 yuck, 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 yuck! Isn't this fun?
Recalling a painful memory from his past when his father left and his mother was caught cheating with your birthday clown.
Mommy!
That's rough, buddy. Stan struggles to come to terms with the truth about his mother. Bullock confronts Haley, who expresses her hesitance about motherhood. But they profess their love and rush to find their daughter, only to discover Edna had sent the baby back to the Lord.
What on Lucifer's black beach have you done? Where's my baby?
Your baby?
No!
Stan, seeking reconciliation, approaches his father, but is told there is more to the story. Jack reappears, clarifying that he was the clown at Stan's childhood party, trying to make him happy while also committing produce thefts to support the family. This revelation leads Stan to realize his own role in the family's breakdown. Frustrated, Steve finally presents Stan with a gift, an antique army pistol. In a heartwarming conclusion, cause that's what this confused episode is, Stan takes his own life. We thought we've seen the scariest of them all, but the episode Minstrel Krampus takes it to new heights. As the holidays approach, Steve begins to misbehave, prompting Stan to take him to see Grandpa Jack in hopes of scaring him straight. Jack recounts the tale of Krampus, a creature that punishes naughty children at Christmas. However, Steve dismisses the story. Jack claims he has captured Krampus and keeps him in a copper pot in the basement. Steve begins opening his gifts early, making Stan hide them in the basement. There, he unwittingly releases Krampus. Krampus kidnaps Steve instead, demanding revenge on Jack. Upon learning what happened, Jack is horrified, but promises to use his CIA connections to rescue Steve. However, Jack ultimately abandons the plan and flees. Meanwhile,
Let me go! What are you doing?
Steve is dragged to a Beauty and the Beast-level castle with little toiletries running around instead of lamps and candles. Stan consults Roger, who suggests they seek Santa's help, despite Stan's anxiety about facing him after a previous altercation. Stan and Roger journey to the North Pole, but they are captured by Santa, who punishes Stan for the situation. Santa agrees to help them, but only if they can kill Krampus and promises to remove Stan from the naughty list.
What?
Back at Krampus's lair, Steve learns from the toiletries that Krampus punishes naughty children out of care for their well-being. He discovers that Krampus intended to discipline Jack, not harm him, but was captured while distracted by Strudel. Meanwhile, Haley, needing money for Christmas shopping, seeks a loan from Roger, who refuses and instead directs her to the Help Wanted section. At the airport, she encounters Jack, and after convincing him, he heads to Bavaria to save Steve. Santa and Stan confront Krampus, and the toiletries burst into action. Imagine the damage a tissue paper can do.
What are you doing?
Santa, and reveals his true nature as a villain in the toy business and turns his gun on Stan and Steve. Just as he is about to shoot, Jack arrives and... dying from his injuries, has his blood mix with that of Krampus, transforming him into the new Krampus destined to punish naughty children himself. I'm about to tell you why you should be wary of the old lady that lives alone down the street. In this scary episode, The Census of the Lambs, after attending a Law and Order convention, the family returns home where Stan is thrilled to find the census materials in the mail. He announces his intention to work as a door-to-door enumerator for those who fail to submit their census forms, while Haley expresses interest in joining him. However, Stan believes the job is too crucial to entrust to anyone else. When he arrives at the training session, he discovers that Haley has also signed up, seemingly to undermine his efforts. As they begin their work, Stan struggles, while Haley quickly hits her stride, especially after getting information from a neighbor. Meanwhile, Stan's attempt to gather data in a creepy mansion goes, well, let me show you.
Ann Smith, Census Enumerator. Prepare to be counted.
The first was okay, but the second? Really? Haley canvasses the neighborhood and uncovers a pattern of disappearances linked to the spooky house.
You know, your father shaves his pubic hair in the shape of an arrow.
TMI! TMI! Francine!
Time out, Joey, time out!
When she asks Phyllis about it, she too was...
And blueprints for a man's skin suit?
I can't have two hats?
After she discovers Phyllis has a sinister plan to make suits from men's skin. Just when their situation seems hopeless, they are rescued by Ice-T, whom Haley met at the convention. Using his detective skills from his TV role, he tracks them down and defeats Phyllis. Meanwhile, Klaus receives a camera from his uncle and persuades Steve to model for him. He invites Steve's friends to join, but his photography style is like that of Ann Geddes, which Steve points out. Klaus denies knowing her, but is soon caught mimicking her work. As Klaus becomes fixated on Barry, Steve's friends grow jealous of the attention Barry is getting. In retaliation, Steve contacts Ann Geddes, leading to...
Don't hurt me, Aunt Geddes. I'm just a baby.
You forgot one thing. I